Engage.
Hello and welcome to my channel, Waifu Chronicles. My name is Jess, and I wanted to introduce myself to you before we kick 2022 to the curb for good. I also wanted to tell you a little bit about my channel. It's brand new. I'm brand new to YouTube. This is not my wheelhouse, but I figured it's going to be a fun side project, and we'll see what happens in the new year. I want to tell you a little bit about the channel, a little bit about myself. I've been married for almost 20 years, and we have a 4-year-old child on the spectrum, autism spectrum, that is. So instead of creating a channel that's just covering mom topics or wife topics or housekeeping topics, I am no Joanna Gaines. I will never be featured in Good Housekeeping. That is not my thing. I am obviously not a beauty blogger either. So my idea with creating the channel was mostly to put all of the thoughts that I have into something. I don't know what your background is, but after becoming a mom, it took me a while to find myself and learning to be a human again. That took some time. You have that mom fog brain for a while. You change, your priorities are not yourself. You don't work on yourself. So in the last several months, I really wanted to put a lot more effort into working on myself. Hubby and I have recently lost over 30 pounds, and we're still working on losing more, getting toned up. Got to keep up with a toddler. Well, I guess she's not a toddler anymore, but that was really the incentive, and being healthy, and, not a New Year's resolution, just we're ready. And you may not be ready for a long time, but when you are and you can commit to it, that's when you need to do it and be consistent. And very happy with the progress we've made, excited to do more. Excuse my voice, by the way, this isn't my typical voice. Just coming off of a 3-week stint with RSV. My daughter was admitted to the hospital for 4 days. That was really scary. Coming off of the pandemic and everything associated with that. And I actually had COVID in the summertime. This RSV that I was told by the ER doctor would just be an annoying cold for me, has kicked my butt. So I'm just getting my voice back, and excited to start new things. Honestly, it's a little scary. Not used to talking to camera. It's very foreign to me. And I never thought I really had a lot to say on things. And maybe it's because I didn't have anyone to say it to. Again, with having a small kid and that mom brain, you fall out of touch with speaking to adults when you're not around adults all the time. And since switching to working from home, and not getting that practice, I'm going to look at this project as kind of speech therapy for me, and working on getting those skills back. So the channel itself, though, I'm still trying to formulate a way that it's going to be cohesive, and Big Daddy algorithm isn't going to slap me down too hard for not posting the same exact type of content every time. Excuse me. So I do think all the pieces do fall together. It's just structuring it in a way that's more cohesive and it makes sense going forward. So there may be tweaks. If you have any comments or suggestions on how to do better, I'm totally open to that. Happily accepting constructive criticism. I once upon a time was a 911 police dispatcher, so I have some stories from that I would like to share. Some funny, some not so funny. The calls can be really hilarious sometimes from the public. Working with law enforcement is a unique one. I had my preconceptions going in, and it kind of turned it all on its head. So that is a part of my life that I want to talk about. There's, without doxing or naming names, I do have a story about corruption within a small town police department and sexual misconduct on the part of a police sergeant. And how that all went down, you could probably guess. In a small town, small police department, I submitted a formal complaint to the DA's office and requested a grand jury investigation. And you can probably guess how that went down. So there's some things that happened in the aftermath of my leaving the department, um, that I think would be interesting to just kind of throw out there. It's probably not unique. I'm sure this happens all over, but having had seen it and dealt with it, and my experience in how politics work on the local level, it was something. It really was something. It was definitely a learning experience. In I grew up from that quite a bit, coming from a very, I wouldn't say naive upbringing, but yeah, more or less. So there's that side of things. I do consume a lot of law tube, um, like most women in their 30s, true crime, legal stuff, snapped, anything on Discovery Plus, TLC, wine. I am the demographic. I understand it's a thing. But yes, that is another side of things. The law tube community, I understand, is a bad word for some attorneys on the platform, and because communities are for suckers. But I digress. I say law tube because it's easier than, I mean, it's Nick Rekieta, who's spicy. He's not everybody's cup of tea. He uses the cursey words. He's just not for everybody, but he's hilarious. Ian Runkle, Good Logic, Legal Mindset, that whole group of guys, and there's some ladies in there too. The, most of my viewership of what's on YouTube is their videos, true crime podcasts. But I find with the true crime podcast that they're all talking about the same major stories and cases that everyone is talking about or has talked about hundreds of times. And there can only be so many new videos about it when there's no new information. I do want to cover a case in particular that hasn't gotten a lot of publicity, which is surprising. The death of Amy Harwick. She was murdered a couple of years ago. She was a sex therapist in Los Angeles, and she was engaged to Drew Carey for a time. There hasn't been any movement in that case, as far as I can tell. I'm hoping the trial does get televised. The suspect, he is still sitting in the LA County Jail, and he's had 8 pretrial hearings over the last year. The next one is scheduled in January. So I'm keeping a pulse on that case, and hoping, again, it gets televised. I keep adding Shanley Painter on Twitter about it, hoping to get some news, but we'll see how that goes. That one in particular hit a little closer to home than any other cases that I've seen. Not because I knew her, I wasn't friends with her, but long ago, pinup girl culture was becoming a thing on the scene in Los Angeles in particular, and I was so into it. And we went to a burlesque show that was so much fun, and got to meet a lot of these ladies in this small group, the pinup models and personalities, and it was so much fun to get to meet them. Amy Harwick is actually there, and she was emceeing the event, and I have had a couple different interactions with a photographer friend of hers, close friend of hers, and makeup artist friend of hers. So when the news broke, it was really devastating. Even though I didn't know her personally, I knew those in her orbit, and it's just stuck with me. And not many people are talking about it, and I just think it's important. And just keeping a pulse on the movement in that trial is something that I have on the back burner. Aside from true crime and LawTube and court cases and all of that fun stuff, the nerddom, I mean, OG nerds in this house. And Gary over at Nerdrotic, he's awesome, and he articulates things very well, and his opinions, I'm like, yes, thank you for saying it. But the other people in the nerdosphere, you've got the geeks and gamers guys. Most of them are guys, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There are some women on the panels and make their own content on nerd news, nerd news and movies and shows, and they have their takes. I don't necessarily relate to them though. Um, I don't fully relate to the guys either. I'm somewhere in the middle. And so I was like, these young girls, these young girls in their 20s, um, single girls, 20s, most of the time when they get together, like Simpcast, they talk about dating and what that's like, which sounds horrible. If I ever find myself single, no, thank you. But I didn't feel like there was a voice in there that was from where I come from. I grew up a tomboy and I was tag alonging with my brother all the time, who's 5 years older. And I was just like this awkward thing. I still am, but I find myself gravitating more toward 40-year-old dudes commenting on the movies and the happenings in Hollywood. And it's great. I love their content and I will continue to eat it up. But there wasn't, you know, there wasn't anyone in that seat. And maybe I can be that seat. So we'll see how it goes with the channel. Like I said, with the algorithm, it may not like me too much having different types of content. But I do want to be consistent. I want to post 2 videos a week, and dedicate those 2 days to certain types of topics and see how it goes. And if there's anything that you could recommend or would recommend for a newbie, please share. And other than that, if you have questions for me, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Waifu Chron, short for Chronicles. So it's WAIFUCHRON on Twitter. I have like 5 followers who are probably all bots. But I'll be posting information about upcoming posts, upcoming videos, soliciting, you know, ideas for content, what people want to hear about. It's not just all about me. But oh, in addition to that, I forgot to mention, and this goes on along the line of nerding out, right? Not necessarily of like Marvel or DC nerding out, Star Wars, Star Trek, which Trekkie all the way. But I nerd out so hard on genealogy. It's dumb. It's really dumb how excited I get. There's so many mysteries and everybody's family past and the skeletons in the closet are all coming out because DNA matches are a thing at your fingertips these days. And even in my own history, and this is what's weird to me, having grown up without grandparents and, getting into your 30s and your friends have grandparents that just pass. And it's just such a foreign concept to have grandparents. My parents were older when they had me, and their parents were older when they had them. So my grandfather was born in 1912. I don't know many, if any, people at my age that have a grandfather that's born before World War One. So it's interesting though. You get stories passed down from family members about family members, and then the Ancestry DNA comes along and it's all shot. You find out people weren't actually related that you thought were your parents. Oops. You find out people were having affairs with other people. They thought they would hide it until the baby comes out. That actually was my grandmother's story. She was born and she obviously didn't look like the father. So she was put up for adoption. There are so many question marks still about her situation that I'm just like deep diving in. I want to get the red thread out, take that down, put a cork board up, and just go to town. But it's not just because it's my family. I am so interested in all the things that come out of all of this technology and these stories. And sometimes it's devastating. Other times it's just funny. But I'm sure some of you have some of those stories, experiences. It's kind of new territory, especially as they get more samples and they get to be more and more finite. Like I didn't know I was 19% Korean. I knew I was some part of Asian, but I didn't know what. So come to find out, I'm mostly Scottish and Korean. That was news. But very cool. It's really, really cool. So I probably want to do at least a video on that type of stuff. I want to hear from other people. I want to hear their stories. And yeah, I just want to have fun here, and I hope that we can make something fun together. So I hope you come back. I don't know how you found me. I'm glad you did. Um, Come back in the new year. I probably will start posting videos mid-January. I understand January is kind of a dry month for a lot of creators on YouTube. I'm not sure if there's like a monetization angle to that, but obviously I'm not monetized and it doesn't matter. So for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to work on getting better, recovering after this sickness, and yeah, we'll go from there. Come back, follow me on Twitter, and hit the subscribe button and flip it, bop it, pull it, whatever you got to do to that subscribe button, bell. I don't know where they are, and the like button. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Take us out of here.